at some point, the math is the math.
I think we can do a better job using that information.
It reinforces my belief that I have the best constituents. Hello, Austin. Hello, Clawbackers. Welcome to episode 5. 5 episodes in, and the party just keeps on rolling. Glad to see everyone watching today. And if you're watching this after the live stream, we do this Friday, every single Friday, but not necessarily every single moment in Friday, because sometimes we've got morning council meetings or we've had afternoon events. We try to do it in the afternoons on Fridays, but please keep staying tuned, and you can always, of course, watch the live stream later as we post it to our Facebook page. We also post the video on YouTube. We post it on Instagram TV, and we even do a podcast on SoundCloud if you want to listen to this when you're driving home from work on Friday or to work on Monday. Let's go ahead and jump into our... Okay, this is what we're going to do. You got to preview the titles of my special titles, and then my video camera didn't go away. That's okay. That's how you know I'm doing this myself. There we go. Our big topics for the week. We had a big council meeting this week. Long conversation on homelessness that followed other work sessions and other meetings during the week. We did come to a conclusion on the ordinances, at least, with a 7-4 vote. We added a couple of really good elements to it, I think, that were always part of the intention, at least for me, when we were defining public health and safety and obstruction. Those are, you can't be camping on a sidewalk or obstructing a sidewalk. You can't be camping in areas of high fire risk. Those are things that we all added clarity, but also was valuable to hear from the police chief and from our watershed department and from legal staff that the way the ordinance is written, it really does give the chief and the staff discretion to determine on a case-by-case basis who is obstructing the public right-of-way, who is endangering themselves or others. And of course, as we remember, all of the public nuisance rules and laws at the state level are still in force. You still cannot do those lewd acts. You still cannot be overly aggressive. In fact, we have a separate ordinance that talks about aggressive behavior. But it really is time to move on. We've got to get to the solutions. And I have been really looking forward to that longer conversation. The council passed an action plan to end homelessness earlier this year. We've allocated money in the budget in September. That money starts flowing in October. We have our homeless strategy officer. She's still here, y'all. She's working as a consultant, which honestly gives her a better platform to do the work, because you cannot solve this with the city alone. You need the private industry at the table. You need business. You need the service providers. I'm excited to see Lori really dig her teeth into that, and to see ECHO step up as our federally funded central agency to do this work and coordinate across all of our service providers. I'm a little disappointed we didn't have more votes on the ordinances in the end. I thought we did add a few good things like the sidewalks and the fire risk, but unfortunately 4 of my colleagues decided they didn't want to see that move forward. But nonetheless, we are moving forward, and I'm excited to get that behind us as a city and really start solving the problem instead of just trying to hide the problem, which is what we had been doing for years. Number 2, the Riverside case. So many of you in District 6 may not be familiar with this case, but it's a big zoning case that was happening on Riverside, affecting some old apartment complexes that are really popular with UT students. Now, I'm a UT grad myself. I attended university. Although I never lived in those apartments, I did have the luxury or the luck of staying in the dorms for 3 of my 5 years, which is really something we hope the university will step up to do. Student housing is really a different type of housing than what the market will provide on its own. It works best if the university is building that student housing, and I think the city is excited to be a partner with the university in that effort. But when it comes to the ballpark apartment complexes on Riverside, it really does come down to one central question. The apartments that exist today are not going to exist forever under any scenario. There is a future condition where those apartments are redeveloped, that provide job opportunities, that provide housing, that 400 to 500 of those units are income restricted to folks 80 and 60% of the median family income, so lower income folks. By the time we got to the end of the deal, we're also providing some permanent supportive housing to help with the homeless problem over the next 5 years while we stand up other parts of the service providers. That is what we approved. The alternative, if we had not approved this case, would have been in a few years, all of these apartment complexes being redeveloped into high-end luxury condos. No affordability, no help with the homelessness, no commercial likely. It would be all high-end luxury, which you've seen in other areas of that part of town. There are other older apartment complexes that, without any affordability requirements, redeveloped into condos or townhomes that are $500,000 to $700,000 each. With this redevelopment, it's going to actually provide some long-term affordability in a way that voting no just was not going to provide that affordability. It was a tough vote. I'm really thankful for my colleagues that voted with us on this. I also understand the folks who are frustrated. It is not a great scenario to see the apartment complex you've been living in have to be redeveloped. But unfortunately, in Texas, we don't have a lot of tools to prevent redevelopment from the wishes of a property owner. That is kind of the Texas property rights universe. So it is a difficult choice. It was a difficult choice for all of us. It ended up passing just with 6 votes, a very odd kind of like 6-3-1-1 vote, where 3 voted no, 1 abstained, and 1 was off the dais. But nonetheless, that case is going to move forward, and we'll have some long-term permanent affordability down there at Riverside and Pleasant Valley, which again is the intersection of 2 transit corridors and to a lot of job opportunities and a lot of other resources. So it's going to be good in the long term, even if it's a little painful in the short term. And the third thing, it's election time. We have the election is just a couple weeks away, but newsflash, early voting starts Monday. Early voting starts Monday. And if you're watching this later, you're early voting right now. So make sure that you get to the polls and vote. You will see 10 state constitutional amendments. Check with your state reps on their perspective. You will see, if you're on the Travis County side, a county proposition related to a rodeo arena in Far East Travis County, and 2 city propositions. If you're in Williamson County, you'll see 2 bond elections for Wilco. One is parks, one is roads and drainage. The Wilco ones are fine. The Travis County one is not. And then you'll see the 2 city propositions, A and B. We've talked a lot about these on the Clawback, but I just want to reiterate one more time, these are bad policy for the city. A long list of folks have endorsed opposing these 2 propositions, including this week, the Austin Chronicle weighing in with a recommendation to vote no on both propositions A and B. So make sure you get out to the polls. It's a low turnout election. These off-cycle Novembers can be like that, and it'll be really important to have your voice heard for the future of our city, to make sure that we can maintain our youth fields and our rec sports and our YMCAs. That's Prop A, vote no on Prop A, and that we can expand the convention center. That will help with our music industry and historic preservation and homelessness. Make sure you vote no on Prop B. We'll have a few more updates on this, but be sure to share this message with your friends and others in the community. It's really important that we turn out folks who are really thoughtful about the future of our city. So no on A and B. All right, now I'm going to redo my titles that you got a preview of, but this time I won't be talking over them, and I'm going to hide myself so you can see the whole thing. I worked really hard on those titles. I'm really sad that you got to preview those before I was ready. So as I said in the last Clawback, we're going to do a regular update on the land code. What we'll do today is just a quick introduction. In fact, that's what Chapter 1 of the code is. Chapter 1 is introduction. What I want to do something different in the Clawback this week. I'm going to try to pull up a web page. So hopefully you're seeing the web page now. This is the city's web page that is about the code rewrite. It's austintexas.gov/LDC, Land Development Code, austintexas.gov/LDC. You can see all of the updates. You can see the next round of meetings that are happening. But I want to jump right into where you can review what's actually going on. There's a menu at the top. You can see code, draft, and map. You can click on that. And then if you scroll down a little bit, you can see the staff reports and the chapters if you want to go through the code one by one on the chapters. I went through the introduction chapter before the clawback today. It's pretty straightforward about setting up the rules, and this is what the Planning Commission does. This is what the Board of Adjustment does. Here's how those boards operate. There's a couple little tweaks in that I might be recommending to staff, but nonetheless, it's a pretty straightforward chapter. But the fun one is the zoning map. You can see down here towards the bottom the proposed zoning map. I've got that open in my tab here. What this does, and I'll zoom out a little bit, this shows the city, the zoning map of the city, with the current zoning and the proposed zoning. So you can check out what the zoning is of any property now, and then you can see what's being proposed in the new code. I'm going to spot check a few of these just so you can see what it looks like. So if you look at, well, of course, if you're in District 6, these gray areas that don't have zoning are not actually in the city of Austin. That's why they don't have zoning. But you can click on, I'll click on a house on Meadow Heath here. You can see that under the current zoning, it is ISF2. You might see a lot of I zonings in District 6. That's interim. It means that it was built before the area was annexed, and so the staff put an interim zoning across. There's some weird interims where there's an existing apartment complex, but it has an interim zoning that's like really small or unrelated. Hopefully we'll be fixing a lot of those. And then you can see the proposed zone on the proposed map. R2A is by far the most common zoning that we'll see in District 6. It's a basic single-family home zoning or a house-scale duplex zoning. That's what the 2 stands for. The other piece of information you can find in this map is right across the bottom. You can see a little toggle, 1 of 2. You can click over and see additional information. You can also do that on the current zoning map. One piece of interesting information: does this property fall within council criteria for transition mapping? And what we did when we set the staff on this process is we said there are 6 things, relatively speaking, that mean more density is appropriate. And the more of those things that qualify, the more density we should be ready for in the future. You can see on this particular property, no, 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 no. Because it is the middle of a neighborhood, it is far away from transit, it is not any of those identified areas. If you click around in Central Austin, you'll find areas where it's yes, 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 yes. I want to show you a few other things that you can check out as I scroll over. Here's an interesting example. This is the Elon Apartments on 183. The current zoning is an MF4 CO. And the CO means that under the current code, it had this custom zoning made for it. That is unlike any other zoning in the city. In this case, what staff has decided is that it can just maintain that very custom zoning. That's what F25, former Title 25, it's the old code. But you can go and look and see what those conditions are. If you scroll over, you can see that, obviously you can see the no, 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 yes, because it's a high opportunity area. You can see the case number of the original zoning. You can even click to see the zoning ordinance that was passed. And here's a little trick for you. If you scroll down, you can see what the special conditions are. Look for the phrase conditional overlay. Then you can see what those specific conditions are. In this case, I'm not sure that we need to maintain these conditions. This is an ordinance. That 00 at the top means the year 2000. This was a zoning ordinance done before 183 was expanded. So I'm not sure that we need to keep zonings that were applied before the highway existed. That specifically, this 2,000 trips per day limitation made a lot more sense before 183 was a highway. And then residential dwelling units limit that really should be about other parts of the code. So I know we're going long on the clawback today, but I wanted to give you a start. You can also click through and see some summaries of the zoning categories that exist in the new code. You have all of these R through R4, which are all types of development at the scale of housing. R4 has a little bit of fun stuff in there related to affordability or preservation, or maybe able to build a little bit more. Then RM and MU and MS are different versions and styles of apartment complexes or retail on the ground floor and apartments above or other things. And then you can see some of the more traditional zones where it's industrial or public zoning or aviation or CC, DC, UC. Those are the more intense zoning categories. So again, you can see all of this at austintexas.gov/LDC. Be sure to go to this resource when you're hearing information about what is in the code. There are some folks out there that are just trying to scare you about it. I had one constituent contact me asking me to oppose changing the code because she wanted to keep her house. She lives in the center of a neighborhood that is essentially not getting any additional entitlements. There's no risk of her losing her house. It is entirely within her control. But I'm sure that the information that's getting out there isn't always going to be clear about that. Always go in and check the map. And if you have any questions about what you're seeing, you can always contact my office, or if you don't live in District 6, you can contact the city. All of that contact information on austintexas.gov/LDC. I'm going to make there it goes, going away. Fantastic. We're going to keep doing the land code stuff. We'll get through the different chapters. We'll explain the zoning categories. We'll explain the transportation codes and the utility codes and all those things. But I think you've got a good start to start digging into it. We are way over time. We're at 15 minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and jump to our credits. Thanks to everyone for watching the Clawback today. We covered a lot of topics really quickly. Again, early voting starts on Monday. Get out to the polls and vote. Vote no on City A and no on City B. Check out my voter's guide, jimmyflannigan.com/2019-guide, and we'll see you on the Clawback next week.